Let's dive into some essential English phrasal verbs for travelers. First up, check-in means to register upon arrival, like when you check in at a hotel. For example, I checked in at the airport 2 hours early, or don't forget to check in at the front desk. Next, check out is used when you leave a place, especially a hotel. You might say, we need to check out by noon, or I'll check out the new cafe later. Take off refers to when a plane leaves the ground. For instance, the plane will take off at 5 p.m., or I watched the bird take off into the sky. Get in means to arrive, like what time will you get in, or I got in late last night. Set off is about starting a journey. You could say, we set off early to avoid traffic, or they set off on their road trip last weekend. Pick up means to collect someone or something. For example, I'll pick you up at 6, or can you pick up some groceries? Drop off is the opposite, meaning to leave someone or something. You might say, can you drop me off at the airport by 7 a.m.? My flight is at 9-inch, or don't forget to drop off the rental car at the return location before catching your flight. Get away means to escape or go on vacation. For instance, we need to get away for the weekend, or he managed to get away from the crowd. Look around means to explore a place. You could say, let's look around the museum, or I'll look around the store for a gift. Get on means to board a vehicle. For example, we need to get on the bus quickly, or I got on the train just in time. Get off means to exit a vehicle. You might say, I'll get off at the next stop, or make sure to get off the plane safely. See off means to say goodbye to someone leaving. For instance, I went to see him off at the airport, or she saw her friends off at the train station. Hold up means to delay. You could say, sorry, I was held up in traffic, or don't hold up the line. Hurry up is a call to move faster. For example, hurry up, we're going to be late, or can you hurry up with that? Run out of means to use up or exhaust a supply of something, so that there's none left. You might say, we need to find an ATM because I've run out of cash for the rest of the trip, or hurry up. We're going to run out of time if we don't leave for the airport soon. Stopover means to make a short visit during a journey. For instance, we'll stop over in Paris on our way to Rome, or I had to stop over in Chicago for a meeting. Get through means to finish something or to contact someone. You could say, I finally got through the book, or did you get through to customer service? Turn back means to return to a previous point. For example, we had to turn back because of the storm, or let's turn back, we missed the exit. Set up means to arrange or establish something. You might say, I'll set up the meeting for tomorrow, or they set up a new office downtown. Check over means to review something carefully. For instance, I like to check over my documents one last time before heading to the airport to make sure I haven't forgotten anything, or don't forget to check over your luggage to ensure you have packed all your essentials, like your passport, charger, and tickets. Let's start with board up. This means to cover or seal something, usually a window or door, using wooden boards for protection. For example, we had to board up the windows before the storm arrived, or the abandoned building was boarded up to prevent trespassing. Next, we have touchdown. It's used when an aircraft lands on the ground. For instance, the plane touched down safely after a long flight, or will touch down in New York at 5 p.m. Hop on is often used casually to mean getting onto a form of transport quickly. You might hear someone say, I'll hop on the bus and meet you there, or they hopped on their bikes and rode to the park. Get around refers to moving from place to place. For example, it's easy to get around the city by subway, or she uses a scooter to get around the neighborhood. When we say check in on, it means to look in on someone to make sure they're doing well. You could say, I'll check in on grandma later to see how she's doing, or could you check in on the kids while I'm gone? Head for means moving towards a specific direction or destination. For example, we're heading for the beach this weekend, or he headed for the exit after the meeting ended. Stop by is used when someone visits briefly. Like, I'll stop by the store to pick up some milk, or she stopped by her friend's house to say hello. Look out for means being aware of something or watching for it. For example, look out for cars when crossing the street, or she always looks out for her younger brother. Then, there's pile into, which means to enter a place or vehicle in large numbers, often hurriedly. You might say, the kids piled into the car for the road trip, or fans piled into the stadium for the concert. Pull in is used when a vehicle or person arrives at a destination. For instance, the train pulled in right on time, or they pulled into the driveway after a long day. On the other hand, pull out means to leave or withdraw, often used with vehicles or even participation. For example, the bus pulled out of the station at 9 a.m., or they pulled out of the project due to budget cuts. Take in can mean to absorb or understand information, or to allow someone to stay with you. For instance, it was a lot of information to take in at once, or they took in a stray dog they found on the street. Bump into is a casual way to say you've met someone by chance. For example, I bumped into an old friend at the grocery store, or she bumped into her teacher while walking downtown. Then there's hold on, which can either mean to wait or to keep something firmly in your grasp. For example, hold on, I'll be right back, or hold on to the railing, it's slippery here. Plan ahead means preparing for something in advance. You might say, it's always a good idea to plan ahead for a trip, or they planned ahead for the meeting and printed all the documents. When someone says, head back, they're talking about returning to a previous location. For example, it's getting late, we should head back home, or she's heading back to the office after lunch. Check up on is used when you want to verify that someone or something is functioning well. You could say, the doctor will check up on his patients in the morning, or she checked up on the new employees to see how they were adjusting. Set down simply means to place something down on a surface. For instance, he set down the heavy box carefully, or she set down her coffee and opened the laptop. Jet off is a casual way of saying to leave quickly by plane or to go on a trip. For example, they're jetting off to Paris tomorrow morning, or she jet off to a business meeting in London. Lastly, wind down is used when talking about relaxing after a period of work or activity. You might say, after a long day, she likes to wind down with a book, or the party started to wind down around midnight. Let's begin with gear up. This means to prepare for something, especially a trip or event. For example, we're gearing up for our big road trip this weekend, or they're gearing up to leave for the airport. Next, we have head off, which means to start a journey or leave for a destination. You could say, we'll head off early tomorrow to avoid traffic, or she headed off to catch her flight to Tokyo. Go over is used when you're reviewing or checking something carefully. For instance, let's go over the travel itinerary before we leave, or they went over their packing list to make sure they didn't forget anything. Head towards means to move in the direction of a place. For example, we're heading towards the mountains for our vacation, or the tour group is heading towards the historical district. Then there's run over, which can mean to drive over something by accident. You might hear, the bus accidentally ran over a pothole on the way to the station, or be careful not to run over any animals on the road. Go along is used when you agree to something or accompany someone. For example, I'll go along with you to the travel agency, or she went along with the group on a sightseeing tour. Fit in means to make time for something or to feel comfortable in a new place. For instance, we'll fit in a quick stop at the museum before our flight, or he fit in well with the other travelers on the group tour. Next is check back, which means to return later to see if there's any update. You might say, I'll check back at the hotel to see if our room is ready, or they told us to check back after lunch for our tour tickets. Look up is commonly used when you're trying to find information. For example, I'll look up the train schedule before we head to the station, or they looked up directions to the nearest beach. Jet in refers to arriving somewhere by plane, often quickly. You could say, they jetted in from London for the weekend, or she'll jet in for the conference and leave the same day. Go off can mean to leave a place, usually for an adventure. For instance, they went off on a hike in the national park, or he went off exploring the local markets on his own. Pop in means to visit briefly or drop by. You might hear, let's pop into the travel agency to ask about tours, or we popped into the cafe for a quick snack before the train ride. Set about means to begin or start doing something. For example, we set about planning our trip to Europe last month, or they set about packing their bags the night before the flight. Check through is used when you go through something carefully, especially luggage or documents. You could say, we checked through our bags at the airport before security, or he checked through the guidebook to find interesting places to visit. Cut through means to take a shortcut through an area. For instance, we cut through the park to get to the hotel faster, or they cut through the narrow alleyways to reach the historic center. Drop by refers to visiting someone or somewhere briefly. For example, we dropped by the gift shop before heading to the airport, or they dropped by the local restaurant for a quick lunch. Embark on means to begin a journey, especially a long one. For instance, they embarked on a 2-week cruise around the Mediterranean, or we're about to embark on our trip across Asia. Sail through means to do something easily or smoothly, often used in a travel context. You might say, we sailed through security at the airport without any issues, or she sailed through customs with no delays. Map out means to plan something in detail. For example, we mapped out our route for the road trip before leaving, or they mapped out the places they wanted to visit during the vacation. Finally, call in refers to making a brief visit or stop during a journey. You might say, we called in at the local bakery on our way to the beach, or he called in to check on his reservations at the hotel.
I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed the content and found it helpful, hitting that thumbs up button makes a huge difference. It not only shows your support, but also helps others discover this channel. And if you want to stay updated with more insights and fun content, subscribing is the way to go. It's quick, easy, and ensures you won't miss out on anything we share.